Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian.
And I'm Ethan.
And today we bring you the final round of Season 1 of our Big Top Brawl bracket. And we have, what is it? Circle and Protectorate. They're the ones who made it through the ranks. You've probably watched all the other rounds by now, so you should know who's going to be in this one. But if you haven't seen them, go back and check out those other battle reports to catch up with the series.
So this week I decided to drop Fiora the Forsaken, and I went back and forth for a really long time on what to play. Harby seemed like the safe drop into his pairing, it's defensive, it's reliable, he has Grievous wounds, but I have Grievous and Thresher and Purify, so I could play the long game. But then I was like, Fiora can be more offensive with the feet. I can layer the heavies. They have Blessed with Hand of Vengeance. Now they're Mat 9 Blessed. I felt like Fiora could be more proactive, and I figured I could try and just bully on the scenario. And again, I thought I was getting Iona because for the millionth time in a row I've had to play into Iona, there's a forest right in the middle, and I wanted to be able to take a punch from the Tharn coming in if you drop Tharn, and then retaliate with my feet and try and go from there. So I decided to try and play Fiora and hopefully not screw her up.
So for my pairing, I decided to drop Chromac Champion of the Worm, affectionately known as Big Mac.
Big Mac.
Big Mac. And the big reason for this one, first, the scenario kind of works for it, where we rolled up Recon on this one. There is a forest in the center of the table, but one of the big reasons why I'm dropping Chromac in this game is because Alvaro, the creator of these two lists, had messaged me and said he really wanted to see Chromac 2 get played, and he's like, even if it's a bad matchup, just drop it. I want to see it happen. And I figured that I've played against Chromac many times in the old Runes of War days when he was the bane of my existence. So I figured it would be a good chance to get him out there and just do something a little different, because I think Iona's been on the channel a couple times before outside of just this series. So, even though the matchup was probably better for Iona, sorry, and then the scenario was okay for her, especially considering the way the table was set up, we're just going to roll with Chromac and see what happens here. It's just a good old-fashioned beast brick with some fancy circle heavies. There are a few proxies in here. We kind of misplaced our second black-clad Wayfarer, and for whatever reason, we didn't have a Feral Warp Wolf in hand, so there will be a couple Grimkin models in here making appearances, so bear with us while we kind of work through that.
So I won the roll to go first, and I opted to go first to get my speed 4 heavies up the board, get my upkeeps out, and just be able to at least get up the board. And here I pull a focus from the rack and it blows up turn 1, which was sad. Because basically my plan was pull focus, get all 3 of my upkeeps out, Road to War, Firestarter, and the Arm Hellrot. But I didn't really need Firestarter. It was in my head, when I was driving here and planning out, okay, if I play this in the Tharn, I'll get Firestarter up just for tough checks, and I just did it. Whereas this matchup, I don't need it. So losing the rack turn 1 for Firestarter is definitely not worth it.
Speaking of proxies, I don't have 5 inditers, so there's a couple. All the Protectorate heavies are inditers.
Mm-hmm. There's just so many of them. And I figure they're all spell warded, so I don't have to worry about Hunter's Mark as much. I can put some initiates in front, so if you want to come in, then you're going to proc Hand of Vengeance. I got a Punch Monk in each zone. I'm throwing up this initiate unit pretty far, so if you want to shoot with the well, I can shield guard to them and hopefully one will die. And I debated not putting them in triangle formation turn 1 just so I could get a Hand of Vengeance trigger, but I didn't think I would need one turn 1. I did make a mistake and put the Punch Monk in range of the well, because I was like, oh, if he hits it, I'll shield guard. And I was like, wait, he's def 18. If he misses and drifts on me, I'm not immune to blast. That's going to hurt. And then I got a unit of initiates in the back just to try and stop some Lure of the Feast play on my jacks. And that's turn 1.
So for myself, I think I've reviewed the list enough. I mean, like playing Chromac is it's straightforward. A lot of the moving parts happen on the table and not so much in his spell list. So I end up having Chromac go first and put out Hand of Vengeance, or is it just Vengeance?
Vengeful.
Vengeful, sorry, on the Primal Archon. There's a fun little interaction there where if you can countercharge, smack someone, knock people down, but then the other deal is if they come into you, you just get retaliatory strikes. So you can just punch a bunch of times outside of your activation, which is fun.
Yep, with that AoE 4 knockdown.
Yep, and shadow binding too. Like there's just a lot of synergy in those two pieces. The Primal Archon feels pretty decent with Chromac. Gives you some cool interplay here. So at this point, I think we had to pause the clock to go look for the Awakened Spirit token.
Yep.
And I ended up getting that out on the Feral just because everything else in this army can cast its Animi for nothing essentially. Like we've got Elusive on the bird and the goat. Then we've got Spiny Growth on Geterex and Lightning Strike on the Warpwolf Stalker. So the primal from the Feral is really the only thing that's going to benefit from Awakened Spirit. But I get that out, and then I walk my pot up, and then I decide that I'm going to float corpses over to the Lord of the Feast, and I just crack a 5 on that, so I get full corpses on that, so it feels good. It's like I'm playing, my farm list anyways. So now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with the well, and I think I might be able to try and get a shot off at the monk. So I decide to boost a shot into him and miss on an 11, which Ethan reminds me is a good thing because now I can drift and maybe still clip the monk and kill it. But I drift off into no man's land. It was 4 to the 6, so it just would have gone nowhere. So nothing early on from that to get those corpses onto Chromac. So now I'm just trying to make sure that I can kind of maneuver my battle group a little far forward and get these stones up to where they can kind of body block for the rest of my army, but stay outside of range of the Manite Archon, so I just don't give that up for nothing. And the Wayfarers are going to be a little bit weird in this matchup since there's so much spell hate that's going on here with the Jacks, because that's what I'd really like to get the Hunter's Mark on, but I just can't because they're all spell warded. I move up my Stalker. He's inside the little stone thing, so maybe I can do a port if it ever really mattered, but honestly, I don't think it does so much for the way that we're set up across from each other. And unfortunately, the well's kind of in my way. This is a common theme for me, it seems, as playing Circle now, is I just put my well where I feel like it's going to be best and then don't think about where my beasts are going. That obstruction in the middle on my side of the table definitely had a lot to do with the way that I deployed. So in a perfect world, that beasts would probably have a little bit more free range and could leverage a lot of their speed, but because of the way that I deployed there, I'm not actually able to get that to work. And you see me playing the little find the ball game or clamshell game with the stones because I forget that the leader has a skull on the base, so I just had to kind of mix them up to make sure they work. My Primal Archon's kind of setting up, getting ready to charge out from those stones if anyone gets close to that, so I've kind of got a nice little spot of denial. My Dreadrot / Blackclad Wayfarer decides to go up onto the flag to prepare for scoring. The Shadowhorn runs up to kind of be behind the forest so he can walk and jump and do all those sorts of fun things. And then the Warwolf just kind of runs to be not so much a denial piece, but just kind of hang out. I did forget to activate Lord of the Feast, but I walk him up behind the forest just to hang out so that I can kind of ambush out from some things and do some fun stuff with the Lord of the Feast there. Outside of that, I think I'm pretty well set up for turn 2 since I can leverage my speed a lot better than Ethan can, so I think he's got a tough decision to try and unpack into this very fast Circle list. I did roll back things to summon a white mane because I forgot about opening the gate on the well, and I believe that leader confers over to Chromac.
Yep, because he's a Tharn. So my turn 2, my plan is to put my heavies up, kind of like present a couple of them. My plan is to put the Hell Rot one because he doesn't have Blessed. So he'll be armor 23. I'll put him up so if he wants to send in the heavy, he'll have to primal and have to feat. And then I can kind of counter punch with my heavies. And then here I'm also trying to check, like, okay, do I have a cute Scorn play? I do have Madeline in the list, so Chromat can't personally kill my casters. So I just really have to respect the heavies. So I'm like, can I get up? Can I score in the white main he summoned, get some tokens, and just be ready for like next turn without dying to a heavy? So I do the easy stuff. The monks just kind of do their stances, towing the edge of the zones, just slowing down the scenario game. And I also want to put up a heavy so Brian will charge in the Primal Archon into me because I don't think a goat can really scratch the armor on an armor 21 heavy very well. So like he'll have to commit it. That way, like if the Primal Archon comes into me, I can just sack my movement and then punch him without getting shadowbound. And because I don't want to have to send my Archon to do it. And then maybe like I can, okay, boost a damage roll into him, eat the retaliatory strike, and then send in the Archon. So here I'm just measuring out.
Oh, what was your objective?
My objective was Pathfinder.
And mine was Puppet Master. I just forgot to say what they were.
Because I knew like the woods in the middle, like nothing in my list has Pathfinder except for like the flying Menites. So I opt to go up for a Scorn. I hit, puts me up to 3 Hatred tokens, and then just conferring the POW, I opt to boost because it's dice -2, and I'm kind of hoping he toughs. I force a tough check.
And the white main's tough and rapid heals only 1, so this gives Ethan another opportunity to get some more Scorn tokens for essentially nothing.
Yep, so now I just need not snakes, and now I'm dice -2. I kill.
Yep,
so now I'm on 4 tokens, so that means next turn I will automatically go to 5, and then my control area will be extended. So like I feel like I'm in a good spot. I put up the initiates just to contest that zone and try and bait out some stuff to come into me. That way I can counter punch with the Archon or with the heavies. And I'm trying to be cute in case he sends in the goat. So I'm trying to like layer around the Menite Archon. So that way like I'll get some Ashen Veil action. It doesn't work on the Archon, but I don't think a Primal Archon could really kill a Menite Archon. Just because he's like dice -5, dice -4 on some of his attacks.
15 and 14, so it's not super. They're not like the powerhouse that you'd think they'd be.
And I'm setting up the jacks too. So like basically I'm presenting my army. I feel like I'm resilient enough with arm 21 jacks. And then here I'm just running Inditers around in front of me. That way he can't get a charge on Fiora with a different model, with a non-battle group model. Because I believe at one point I measured out, I had forgotten that the Scarsfell had tracker so it could see through the wood. So I'm outside its walk punch, but I am within its charge range, and that's why I had to circle the heavy around in front of me. Because Brian reminded me halfway through like Fiora's activation that does have tracker.
Yeah, because you were asking about the trample. You were like, you can trample and buy 2 attacks, and I was like, well, I can charge though with tracker. It's Scarfell's. They were like, you couldn't like throw a brick in a room without hitting one. It seems a couple years ago, and now it's like I think it's gotten to the point where people might forget what they do.
Yeah, like I knew it lost long leash or something like that. Like it's been a long time. So now I'm just moving up the choir, saying no magical shooting. So basically, just trying to deny where the Lord of the Feast can go. Because now I got like a front wall of jacks that he can't really see through. The choir are up there. And then I'm going to be running these initiates. They're not in triangle formation because these are my sacrificial pawns. Like that one position in his front is if he dies, every single jack is going to get Hand of Vengeance. And then like they'll proc Hellrot. And I'm just kind of positioned so he can come into me and then I counter punch.
All right, so my turn 2 comes around, and I'm already thinking, like, as Ethan played his turn out, he's got 1 jack in front of Fiora that I would need to get rid of in order to get that Scarsfell on her, and I feel like I can do that. So I decide to go all in on a turn 2 assassination here, and I drop all the upkeeps because I don't need the Feral to do this, and I don't need Vengeful on the Primal Archon. So I get to see that Chromac is within threat range of the Inditer that is actually a Sanctifier right now, and the rough thing is that I can't actually charge it. I have to charge the Crusader / Inditer, and then that'll cost me an attack that I would be able to buy onto the Sanctifier Inditer. So that's the plan, I think, here, and I'm going to try and do a lot of thinking to figure out what it is I need to get rid of, or what kind of motions I need to go through to make sure that this goes off without a hitch. The big thing is Operation Get Rid of the Sanctifier Inditer. And I would like to get rid of this Paladin that's in front of them because I want the Well to be shooting the Sanctifier, and even though it's an Inditer. And that's something that I've got to that I'll be manufacturing a little later. But first off, I want to make sure that the actual Inditer that's on the middle of the screen here doesn't get an opportunity to take a free strike against my bird. Their defense is decent, but with all of the things that Ethan's got going on between a free strike bonus, and I don't know if Hand of Vengeance procs during your turn too.
It procs as soon as you kill something.
Okay, so that would be something that I want to avoid. So I decide to unpack the Primal Archon and take some swings on these Inditers because I want to knock the one down that I charge. And I barely have the charge. It's like a quarter of an inch in on the charge range for the Primal Archon, so I get that to work, and both of the Inditers are knocked down. So that's the first problem with this assassination kind of solved. I don't have to worry about that anymore. The Puppet Master objective got popped onto the Scarsfell Griffin, and then my hope is that I can get some corpses onto Chromac with the Boilmaster. So now I'm asking Ethan if all of the shield guards that are around Fiora have blast range on Fiora as well. And they all do except for this front paladin. So this is where the Lord of the Feast goes in, and he's just like spending a bunch of corpses. And then I realize that he's got, or Ethan reminds me that he gets plus strength with the corpse token. So I'm able to get him on dice right away by with that first charge, or not charge attack, but I walk and punch. So now that is no longer a valid shield guard option for Ethan to utilize. So I boost a shot onto the Sanctifier, and I hit it, but then Ethan shield guards to the topmost paladin. And I think when we talked about this, we were curious about the 3-inch range, but looking at it, I don't think you could shield guard off to those other guys based on where he's at.
No, I didn't position well. Like, I didn't see this Fiora assassination run, so I didn't position my stuff the best to prevent it.
Yep.
So otherwise, like, I could have positioned the shield guards via the daisy chain up to the triangle. I did not see it when I moved up.
Yep, and thankfully, with the shield guard to the back, that ended up netting me 3 corpses from getting 2 choir members and the paladin that I ended up hitting. And I think with the Fiora blast damage, I ended up doing 7 damage to that right off the bat because you shunted the focus. Oh no, never mind. I think I did 0 damage because I rolled bad on it. So it was dice off 7, I rolled a 7. So that means that the Boilmaster doesn't need to give Chromac any corpses anymore. I just have my 3 and I'm good to go. So he does move up and give Puppet Master to him so that I can make sure that Chromac can do what he needs to make sure this Sanctifier / Inditer goes. So I unpack Chromac into the Crusader Inditer, and that way I've got my reach range onto the Sanctifier Inditer, and I take my charge attack against the Crusader Inditer. People are gonna love this, right? But I don't do great damage, and this is where I kind of make an oopsie, and I re-roll the charge roll because this is like the efficiency attack. Even though I don't need this to do anything, I used it anyways, which was not smart. But it seems to be paying off all right because I'm doing like 11 damage at a time to this Inditer. The first damage roll was ridiculous. Second one, not so great. The third one cracks him real hard, and all I need to do is really just roll the dice and get 4, which I actually get. I still have 1 on Chromac, but that Inditer is now down. So this leaves me... I check the Shadowhorn Satyr just to see if I can get him on there if things don't go well. But before Chromac charged, he primaled the Scarsfell and Feated. So now the Scarsfell is sitting at Mat 10 between Carnage and Primal, and then POW 16 with the Beak. And this is the one where you shunt your damage, and then I end up doing 7 to Fiora on just the charge. I don't do great on, or I miss on the second attack, and then re-roll with Puppet Master, and then do a decent amount of damage on that one. And now with the last shot, I hit, and I can't not kill her with damage. So that was a fast and furious game, but and it might not be the most cinematic way to end the season 1 of the Big Top Brawl bracket, but it's not often that I go for assassinations, but in this one I felt like there's a lot of boxes and a lot of armor in those inditers, and my battle group, outside of just trying to be coy with lightning striking Chromac and the Stalker, it's really dicey. I think Chromac on feet turn is the only one that can really house one of your heavies and get out of there, whereas the Stalker probably isn't going to be able to do that without Primal. And so the opportunity presented itself to go in and take Fiora off the table early, so I decided to go ahead and activate that goal, and it paid off for Chromac and the Bird.
Yeah, it was kind of anticlimactic, but that's my fault. I forgot the Bird had tracker. I got up Firestarter turn 1, so I had to pull from the rack, and it exploded. Otherwise, I would have pulled from the rack turn 2 and been camping 2. It was just a series of misplays on my part, because I feel like Fiora's fine in this matchup. It's just I literally need to not get a heavy or a beast on her. And as soon as you're oh, I can charge this other jack and redirect into the other inditer, I was like, I might die. And then as soon as you got the free corpses for my terrible shield guard placement, I'm like, I'm really dead, because Chromac will trivially kill that heavy. And then, like you said, you're coming in with Mat 10, PS 16 on a 1 camp caster. At that point, I felt like I had just given you my caster.
Yeah.
And I was like, feels bad, man. I wanted to play Fiora. I should have just played Harvey to play it safe. But I was like, you know what? I really wanted to play Fiora, and I thought with the Madeline Core bow tech that I could be a lot more aggressive in the Iona matchup. And, yeah, I just... when in doubt, play Harvey.
It just happens. Yeah, I think if the Harbinger matchup happened here, things would be a lot more different for me. I mean, I think that I'd still default back to my original plan of kill the things that Harvey can't resurrect or martyrdom, and then try and just grind from there. But the problem with circle heavies is that when you're going into a list that their primary function is to attrition, it gets rough for them, because their attacks are concentrated in so many spaces, and the Warpwolf Stalker is a really good piece for being able to go through a bunch of infantry and just do a lot of work, but that only works if you can kill it, and if you're just getting the martyrdoms, that kind of takes away some of its functionality or its tool, its purpose in the game. So dropping Fiora kind of gave the Chromac list a good chance, but even then, those Armor 21 and 23 inditers are still really hard for me to take out, and I think we had both pretty much identified that, if I kill one inditer, which is really probably what I should be doing each turn, it only takes one inditer to kill a circle heavy.
Yeah, because I get up to POW 21 with Hand of Vengeance Inquire, so it's I'd be Mat 9, POW 21, so I just need 5s, and then I'm dice plus 4 on a Stalker, dice plus 2 on Getarex. No, I'd be dice plus 4, because I would definitely hit him first with a Menite to dispel Spiny Growth.
Yeah.
So I felt like the matchup was fine for me. It's just
just a unfortunate positioning, and I think the well shot really helped manufacture this.
Yeah, the 3 free corpses, so you could Puppet Master Chromac instead, and the fact that you got guaranteed 3 instead of having to roll for it.
Yeah.
Because if you had only rolled 1 corpse and given it to Chromac, then okay, maybe I'm in a okay spot. You were boosting the damage because you didn't think you could buy the attacks.
Yeah,
whereas
I just wasn't thinking.
Because if you just buy 10 attacks into the dude, it goes down. But yeah, I just should have remembered the Bird had tracker and not gone for the Scorn play, because I was I saw the Scorn play. I'm okay, I can keep Fiora safe from all this stuff. I just didn't remember tracker.
Well, and that was one of the things that kind of made me feel like this was a plan that I needed to engage, because one of the things that I felt like I could leverage during this game was that Chromac is quite a monster with all of these, like with this buffet of good animi for him in this list. Being able to Lightning Strike out, getting myself up to arm 19 on non-feat turn, and then arm 21 on feat turn feels really good for him. Elusive is nice too if you're having a hard time hitting me, because I feel like Fiora doesn't have any real hit buffs.
I mean, the Jacks are all Mat 7 and
it's coin flips.
Hand of Vengeance.
Yeah, I guess Hand of Vengeance too. So I still feel like it's a good set of animi to have for a caster who likes to project themselves forward. And the minute that you ended up getting that Scorn play and loading up right away to where you were, going into turn 3 fully scorned, I felt like I lost the ability to leverage Chromac to be a bully to Fiora, because she could just come back and start smacking him too.
Yeah, because top of 3, I would have gotten 5, so it would have been POW 17, so we're equal POW on your non-feat turn.
Yeah.
And, like, I have Madeline, so Chromac can't punch me because you have no, like, I mean, if you can get, like, the GOAT onto Madeline or something, like, tricky like that, because she has Sucker, so, like, the well, as long as I keep her away from the well, and she's, like, about 4 inches behind my caster, that way no reach enemy warrior model can get on her. Like, I feel like I'm pretty safe. I just got to worry about the pot pulling me in. But with the forest there, I figured I was going to tuck down to the bottom away from Getorix and bully the bottom. Just because, like, Getorix with Murderous and Overtake, like, from the bond, like, he will put Fiora down. So that was, like, my primary concern. It's just, bad positioning on my part. And it feels bad losing to the faction I used to main. Like I should have remembered it had tracker. Like, I put down the stick. I'm like, okay, I'm outside 8. I'm fine from it. And then, like, I've played Scarsfells. Like, I should know this. I feel like I let down my circle bros.
My circle bros. Yeah, we kind
of
like,
let down David.
We kind of pooped on circle a lot in this event, even though circle ended up taking it, because, like, first, like, poor James Morehouse, we didn't even introduce his list or say that he was, like, in this thing at all.
You didn't. So, I had no part of that.
It's we, Ethan.
It's you.
This is our boat, and we sail it together.
The mistakes are yours, and when I win a game, then it's our thing.
So we did that, and then, like, that was just like a rough matchup for Kruger, and then we ended up Kruger probably would have had that game if you had, like, an extra 15 seconds.
I just needed to roll damage on her and I would have killed her.
Yep. So, like, we treated Circle badly. So at least they got they took the event, and not to mention, it's hard to say. Like, I don't like winning like this. This is not how, like, I'm an attrition player. I attrition to scenario, or I attrition to clock. And these kind of, like, assassination gotcha plays, not that I feel like I gotcha you'd in this one. I think it was just that you didn't envision the Chromac thing or the corpse thing happening to get all of that in there, because I know as soon as you move Fiora, it said that the thing had tracker and that it was, able to get through there if I get the jack out. But it's rough, like, especially when we've been doing this for what feels like months now. But it's still, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, that's how games go. Like, I have top of 2'd people several times with some circle lists before, and it's like, it's one of those things where, like, if you have the opportunity, like, and you feel like you can pull it off reliably well, like, if you get that bird on me, you need 5s to hit, and you're dice -1, dice -2 with your initials, and I'm on 1 camp. Like,
yeah,
that's an assassination run I would 100% go for. Like,
yeah, those are good odds.
I wouldn't even think about it. Like, I would just go for it, and you just go for it. Like, it feels bad when you screw up and it costs your caster to get killed, but, like, that's my fault.
Yeah.
That's nothing on you.
Well, and I did say in this one, too, as soon as I started unpacking this and going through the motions, I was like, if this doesn't work, Chromac's done. Like, either way, this game's going to end before an hour's out. But it reminds me of the old Mark II win that I watched you do. And we don't have to go super deep into the rules of why this worked out the way it did, but I think you were playing Kruger 2 into Runes of War, and you ended up winning on the bottom of 2 without your opponent ever connecting with you because you like TK'd him back into his kill box, and that was when you could score kill box on. I believe that's what happened.
No, what happened was,
or he couldn't move out of it. That was probably the
he
thing.
physically could not leave the kill box bottom of 2 or get into the kill box,
Because
depending on your
feeded
perspective.
feeded to make him slow and TK'd him so he couldn't get out.
No, he just didn't move. He didn't run turn 1 or
gotcha.
advance, like, because Runes of War had a wall placement back then. This is pretty old school. And he walked up to the wall, and there was stuff in front of him behind the wall too. So like he wasn't even to his AD line yet. Like he was maybe 4 inches out of his deployment, and then Kruger feeded on him top of 2, and then like he killboxed himself. I scored the scenario bottom of 2, and I just auto scored at top of 3. So like it was just like GG.
Yeah, it's probably the roughest game I had to watch in terms of like the most ineffectual I've ever seen a game go.
Yeah, and like I've seen people get, hell, I'll admit it, I got bottom of 1 at the last ATC. Like that felt so bad. Like I felt like such an idiot. Like I moved up everything. I was playing Mossere, like a Sansa faded around. I ended my turn next to my Gallows Grove, and I failed to kill the enemy Lord of the Feast, and I was like, well, I'm dead. Because he just moved up, shot my tree, and then killed my caster.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like it's funky how those things go. When assassinations need to be engineered like elegantly, I guess you could say, it feels a little less rough because there's a lot of moving parts to it, and maybe you didn't see it, and then you get to learn something about like, oh yeah, now this won't happen to me again because I understand this interaction. But when it's just something where it's like, yep, I positioned something wrong and you did something that I didn't see coming, like in terms of just like, oh yeah, when I shield guard my thing away, Chromac gets fully loaded on corpses.
Yeah, like I just didn't position my shield guards right. Like I could have, we talked about it a little bit, like if my shield guard had been up a little bit more, I could have like shunted it over to him, like shunted up to the triangle. I just like, I was not thinking about an assassination run on me. I was thinking you were going to send in a heavy, try and like kill, like you were going to primal the top beasts, send them in, try and kill 2 to 3 of my jacks, and then go from there. Like that's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then instead, like there was just an assassination run because I was like, I didn't check like Chromac's line of sight. Like I could have ran the Hellrot Jack farther forward to maybe like offer up a free strike. Not that would have mattered because Chromac would just tank it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's just how the game goes. Like, and like I knew, like I had a speech prepared to him. Like I knew, like if I played Fiora, like I was like, all I want to do is not get killed for getting greedy with Scorn.
Yep, and you done did it. You got scorned by Scorn while not playing Scorn.
Well, I mean, if the stupid rack hadn't exploded turn 1, I would have been camping 2, and it came down to the last attack.
Yeah,
so, like,
that would have been dicey.
I made, like, you were dice -1. I had 1 box left, and I would have had, so I basically would have had 5 extra boxes.
6 boxes, yeah, total.
So you would have needed a 7.
Yeah, and that's a coin flip at least, so that gets a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think this whole idea of the bracket I thought was really fun. Being able to pull a bunch of lists from like notable meta participants and throw them together just to get them on the table. I know the VTC Part 2 or whatever 2021 is going to be happening soon. I would call it Part 2, but I guess it's just going to go on for as long as it goes on. So 2021 probably makes more sense to say. But that's coming up, so people will get a little bit more of a glimpse into what's kind of going on in like the competitive mind space. But I thought that this was a fun way to kind of get that feeling that like a War Machine weekend or Warfare weekend-esque bracket was happening again. And we ended up getting so many lists from people because I cast a wide net that we actually have enough to do another one of these. We're probably going to take like a hot minute to just kind of palate cleanse from playing these types of lists. Like I know Harbinger's strong and she plays well. Clearly she plays well because I think this game she probably would have taken it hands down. But man, is she boring to play after a while.
I mean, like if you like the grind, I'm usually not a grindy player, And I even asked David like for advice before playing. He's like, "You play to the clock," and I was like,
Yeah, I know that's
If
not
I don't
that's not your
assassinate
thing.
you by turn 3, I don't know what to do."
Exactly. It's like you die or I die, and that's the way it is. Like if it's not that, then what do you do? What does War Machine even look like after turn 4?
I don't know. Like, I don't like it.
But
My clock's usually under 5 minutes, and then
exactly right. But the other thing about this too is like Ethan and I were both kind of stressed in a lot of different ways because like I've only ever played 3 circle games in my entire life before prior to this event, and I ended up riding circle through the whole thing really. And Ethan, you don't ever touch Legion unless it was to spit on them in the old Mark II days.
yeah, I hated them.
Just because Legion always had your number. But and then that stupid Veil Hellmouth thing, that was always fun. But yeah, well, I won't go back into the Wayback Machine, but it definitely it gave us the chance to really interact with some of these things. Like I feel like Ethan comes out of this a way better Protectorate player than ever he went in because he got to play all these different things and kind of see how the synergies work out. And like I think the first time you played, you messed up your choir, and then after that, it was just like you knew what to do with them, And I think that it helps you out when as a player when you're trying to like go off into the future. You'll be able to see a Protectorate list and understand how it plays through, and I'll be able to understand these circle lists a lot better because I'm kind of a little bit more entrenched with them. Sometimes when I play against circle, it's like you do your thing and I'll just figure out what happens after that because I don't want to think about all the layers and everything that comes with it. Kind of feel that way about Retribution too sometimes, but definitely difficult to kind of pick up some of these lists that people have played and know well and have tweaked quite a bit, and they make their own meta choices or their like tech calls, and then we have to kind of pick it up and work from there. I know Rebecca Banky was one that really like walked me through the Gristle and Madrak pairing, even though I did have some experience with at least one of those. But it was really helpful to get her insight in how the list had functioned, but then learning these circle lists as I went along was really fun. So we're looking forward to trying to do more of this in the future with that second set of lists that we have. But it definitely is one of those things where like if you land on a faction that you don't play or land on some lists that you don't play, it seems to take a while to kind of get into the flow of it.
And then like if you lose with that faction, it feels rough after that first game because then you don't really get like a chance to redeem it. And like all the games I got, I think, yeah, this was the only list, Harby, where I got a practice game in before because like the week of I played a war table game.
Yeah.
And like I think for the next bracket I'll try to at least get one game in each week before, just with the casters, that way like I don't fumble around or like, because you can tell like when you play with a list you're not familiar with, like the clock just takes,
it erodes. Yeah.
Yep. And then like it's just like I work from home right now, so like I'm sitting at my computer for 8.5 hours a day, and then like when I get off work I don't want to play a 3-hour war table game.
Yeah, it's tough, especially if you are playing one of those more grindy lists where it's going to be a long game too. And for us, when it comes to actually filming these games, we could whack out a practice game prior, kind of like we accidentally did with that Scar vs. Harbinger game. And I feel like that was, it served us both pretty well overall.
I mean, yeah. I think it helped you more than it helped me.
Oh yeah, it super helped me, that was for sure, until like Gaspy's dice went poop. But I think we're, especially like the weather right now in Wisconsin's funky. Not like this is some kind of like apology, or not apology video, but like an excuse video of why we're doing things the way we're doing. But like we get our 2 games in a week that we record out and then schedule them out the way they need to be scheduled. And then by us trying to play a practice game in real life, right, that just kind of digs into that time. So if we do have a weather weekend where things don't go right or something comes up where we can't get to recording, then we're already behind. So I think like it just is, it's one of those hard things where we're juggling a lot of factions, and it just gets hard to like play them with enough competency to not make it look like we're fumbling on them. Like I think sometimes I feel like I do that with the Infernal stuff.
Yeah, but Infernals is one of those, like, that's a good example of, like, it's a faction you need reps in with just to get down those things of, like, down to muscle memory. And that way, like, it doesn't eat up your clock, and that way you know, like, the positioning. You're like, okay, where am I going to summon? Are my cultists over here to load them up? When do I feed? How do I position here? Like, how does the brick move? Like, that's a really... I'll talk shit about Infernals all day, but I'll give them that. Like, it is a high
skill cap.
High skill cap, but, like, once you get those reps in, then, like, once it gets down to, like, okay, you know positioning, you know what you need to do every turn, that's when the faction becomes, like, unlocked. And I think you talked about once, like, if you wanted to play Infernals full time, for you personally, you'd say how many games a week did you say you'd want to get in with them?
I'd want to do like 3 games and 15 with one list. I wouldn't make any changes to the list, just play 15 games, 5 weeks, 3 games a week, and then once I get the gist of that, then you could move on and tweak it. I feel like some people, when they play War Machine, they just are too tweak happy when it comes to things, where if they have one bad game, they take something out, and then they don't really get to take the opportunity to realize that the couple bad opportunities, the 2 bad opportunities that you had, like, those were just outliers.
Yeah, like, they could have been a bad matchup or bad dice or, like, bad positioning because you're not familiar with the list. Like, it has been a long time since I've sat down and been like, okay, this is my tournament pairing. This is what I'm bringing. Like, well, I can't even remember the last time I had a set pairing of, like, this is what I'm going to play. Like, I used to hop around in Mercs between Lele's Resistance and some Magnus 1 jank. And then before that, God, yeah, it's probably going to be like 2 years where, like, because I think for every single event I went to in Wisconsin for a solid 6 months, I played, like, the double Storm Raptor list paired with something.
Yeah.
And usually it was Iona. So, like, I think that was the last time I had, like, a set pair of, like, oh, we're going to an event this weekend. I already know my list. It's in my bag.
Yeah, and that's like one of the unfortunate, or one of the many unfortunate things about pandemic stuff when it comes to gaming is just, I was, before this stuff ended up hitting, I was like super invested in Warriors of the Old Faith and Wolves of Winter being my pair. That was what I was gonna coast and play for like the next few months to make sure that I got the list down and could play it well. And I ended up starting to do pretty well with that pairing in our local events, and then things just kind of stopped. And then from there, that's when, it was basically like from week to week, I'd be playing 2 different factions and different lists. And, I've already built a Italian charter Brawl machine list, and I've never played pirates, not once, outside of stapling Mosby onto him. Like that's the run of it. So it's definitely hard to get that, like, get the muscle memory going for some of these factions. But I still think this is a fun experience and thought exercise. I think it'll be neat to see what kind of shakes out with the second season. I know we're going to have some minions in there, some Scorn. We even have we have a list pairing from someone at Privateer Press, so we've got a lot of really cool stuff coming up in that we're looking forward to showing off.
And then, like I said, hopefully we'll get... I know my goal is to at least try and get 1 practice game on War Table, at least just for positioning, and maybe, like, I don't know, just to try and get more reps in, just to play the list a little bit better instead of watching us just flail for 2 hours. And
exactly, yeah, just throw dice and be like, I hit your guy, it knocked over. I don't know what these rules do.
And it's like, I move up. Do I score a point?
Yeah. Do I have the basketball score?
I meant, like, scenario point. But
that's what I meant. Like, I was just trying to be dumb and cute, but it didn't work.
You're always cute.
I know. All right. Well, thanks for watching this one. We look forward to getting into the next season, but like I said, we're probably going to take a little bit of a palate cleanser and focus on some things that we were really interested in doing soon here. And we'll definitely get some Brawl Machine stuff out for people, though they've been real patient with us as we've gone through this. So it'll be coming soon, but this is the end of season 1, and Circle has emerged as the evil victor, it seems.
I mean, evil because I wasn't the one playing them, so I hate it.
You coached me at least, so you can take that as a...
I guess, yeah, I did walk you through the first game of, like, oh, this is how you play Iona. So really, your victory is my victory.
Exactly. See, it's a shared victory.
And then David's list lost because David gave me a bad list, and it's definitely not my fault.
Exactly. Why do you play Fiora 4 without Hand of Vengeance? Or not Hand of Vengeance, Hand of Judgment, sorry. How do you do that?
Because 5 indictors.
Yeah.
I really like this list though.
No,
I'm
it
sorry,
is.
David.
It is fun. It's a really cool list. I'm not cutting it any crap or anything. It definitely it presents a question, and that's what this list does.
And it's there for like specific matchups. I
Yeah.
just thought like I could tailor it into Tharn, and then you tricked me with
pulled
Chromec.
I didn't do anything. Alvaro pulled the rug out from under you. So from Uruguay, you had the rug pulled out from under you.
Good job. It worked.